And moving swiftly on and starting the hard work of the day, can I ask our first four panellists, please, to come up and take their seats on the podium here, leaving, if you would, the seat at this end free for me. We have four panellists who are going to discuss concrete examples of UK engineering excellence. They represent some of the biggest vehicle and aerospace companies on the planet. We reckon, and this is meant as no disrespect, that between them they have around 120 years of collective experience in the engineering industry. I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves and their company in just 1 minute, and then we're going to talk a little bit about specific aspects of engineering excellence as they relate to their companies, and then we're going to open it up to questions and contributions from the floor. First up then, Colin Smith, Director of Engineering and Technology at Rolls-Royce. Colin, 1 minute on yourself and your company.
Well, if I'm classed as the poster child of engineering, I hate to be anyone even uglier. My company is Rolls-Royce PLC, based in the UK predominantly. We employ about 41,000 people, most of whom are in the UK, or the majority. We're about 12 billion turnover. We operate in 4 sectors: aerospace, civil and defence, nuclear, in marine and energy, and also a big marine division as well. We spend about £1 billion a year on research and development, the majority of which is in the UK. We're very pleased to be based in the UK. We've got great support recently for research and technology from the TSB and other mechanisms. The universities in the UK are really good. We've got some people in the audience from the UK universities. I do worry about their some of their long-term issues, and Nick Clegg talked about that a little bit more. Why are we based in the UK? Well, heritage, history, great workforce we can have access to. We still believe that people in this country can be inspired by all the things that Mr. Clegg said. And we're very pleased to be here.
Excellent. Good, thank you very much. That is what I think we in television news call a thick minute, which is to say very slightly more than a minute, but that was excellent, very concise. Next up, Philip Bouverat, who is a director at JCB, which is the world's 3rd largest construction equipment manufacturer. He's the man responsible for getting JCB into the Chinese market, amongst other things. Philip, a minute on yourself and JCB.
So my 45 seconds. JCB has 300 different products. We're a private company. We celebrated our 65th anniversary last year. We have a revenue of about $4 million US. We sell to 185 countries. We have 22 plants globally, and we're very proud to be British. We export 75% of everything we manufacture in this country. We employ 10,000 people directly.
Thank you very much, Philip. Jonathan Neale is Managing Director of McLaren Racing, one of those 8 Formula One teams out of 12 worldwide, based here in the UK, specialises, of course, in high-performance engineering. Jonathan, a minute?
Good morning. As you've heard, I'm Jonathan Neale from McLaren. McLaren will be known to some of you perhaps for its Formula One business, most famously at the moment the back-to-back British world champions Lewis Hamilton and Jenson Button drive for us, so have many iconic drivers over the years, from Ayrton Senna, Alan Prost. We've been racing since the 1960s, and we also have a new export automotive business where we're making something like 10 cars a day down in Woking at the moment, an electronics business and an applied technologies business. We employ 2,000 people in the Surrey area.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. And finally, Barry Eccleston, President and Chief Executive of Airbus Americas. He oversees the engineering, sales, marketing, service and pilot training for Airbus across the pond. Barry, you have a minute.
Thank you, Nick. Airbus, of course, is the world's largest commercial airplane manufacturer. Almost certainly you've flown on our products. Airbus is a European company, but operating in a global marketplace. Indeed, we're actually moving to being a global company because our business is a global business. The UK involvement in Airbus, of course, is that all the wings for all of our aeroplanes are designed and made here in the UK. Airbus employs about 10,000 people in the UK. We're part of the EADS group. You'll be hearing from our EADS colleagues later. And EADS in total, including Airbus, employs about 17,000 people. My particular role is looking after everything that happens on the other side of the Atlantic, in North and South America. I'm a 40-year veteran of the aerospace business. I grew up in the UK going to Farnborough in the 1950s, the heritage days of British aerospace. But I spent 36 years of my career living and working overseas, exporting British aerospace technology in one form or another.
And we'll come back perhaps to that overseas experience you've had a bit later. Colin, let's start with you. Rolls-Royce is renowned as a sort of beacon of engineering excellence, one of the flagship companies of British manufacturing. How easy is it to maintain that reputation? And does the fact that you are a British company, you can claim to be British, does that help?
Well, our strap line is we claim to be trusted to deliver excellence, and it's really, really hard to maintain that. Quality is absolutely paramount, and quality of our supply chain is paramount in maintaining that. The customers are rightly ever more demanding. In order to be able to produce world-class technology and the high quality that's needed, we really need great people. And we have to do great research in both manufacturing capability and pure technology. So last year we did 475 patents. It's a pinnacle. We're global competitors, a lot of which get reasonable, I'll use the term subsidies and more state aid perhaps than companies in the UK do from a number of different sources. So you just have to be relentless at the fundamentals and maintaining a great workforce and continuing to recruit consistently. And we have sort of 200 graduates a year and 400 apprentices. You've got to build your own momentum. Being in the UK is a great help. Heritage for us, just over 100 years old. Everyone knows Rolls-Royce is a British name, but when you're competing against the best in the world in some of the deeper reaches of the world, it's your quality and it's your technology that counts. And
do you find that British engineering is associated with quality? When you go to foreign customers, do they say, yes, we associate things like reliability and excellence with building British?
Sadly, I don't think I can say it's built in British. I think you've just got to show that you can do it and you are consistent and you can use world-class methodologies. And you've got a world-class supply chain to enable you to back that up. It's the results that count.
What are the biggest challenges that you face in maintaining Rolls-Royce's reputation? The sort of things that you've been talking about?
Consistency, coherency, and speed of action. So you just got to keep putting the product out there that is, like I said, world-class competitive against some really, really strong competition. And make sure you beat your customers' expectations, and some of them are really tough.
Philip, let's move on to you. As delegates arrived, as you all arrived at Lancaster House, you may, as I was this morning, have been slightly wrong-footed. Everybody knows that JCB products are yellow, but you may have noticed just outside the front door, there's a gold JCB. I wonder why, I can't imagine. Philip, you're a family-owned business, as you said, but that hasn't prevented you from competing very strongly in a very competitive global market. Let me ask you the same question. Does being British help? Is it a banner, a tag that you can brandish with pride?
Yes, I think we believe it is. And if you look at our business cards, we're also very proud to carry the crest of the Queen's Awards. We play on the British manufacturing heritage greatly in our global networks, and it's particularly helpful to us in the Commonwealth and ex-Commonwealth countries, but it's well respected in markets like China and the United States and Brazil.
You brought a video along, I think, haven't you?
I'm afraid I have, yes.
Why did you introduce your video?
Can't we just wait to watch it? The video has a voiceover, and I did actually ask the team that put it together, who's the voiceover? And they said Sean Bean, and I said, well, for God's sake, it could have been Mr. Bean. That could have been worse. But, we're just basically pointing out on the video that we do have 300 products. We have broken a world land speed record with our diesel engines. We continuously develop. The backbone of our business is all about quality and urgency, to stay ahead of our competition and to keep giving the customers what they need. We have to innovate with a sense of urgency on a continuous basis. Sir Anthony Bamford, who's our chairman and the son of the founder, JCB stands for Joseph Cyril Bamford, and in 1947 he coined a phrase that he was never content. and it was all about urgency. And we work against deadlines continuously to get the product right for our customers, and we think ahead. New building methods are popping up all the time. If you look at the buildings in London, I think the Shard alone had 3 world-class building methods employed, never before. You look at the Olympic Park, it was the same. We need to think how our machines relate to the markets of the future all the time, so we're never content to stay still.
Do you want to play that? Are you going to play the video?
Well, I'm not actually in control of that, someone else is.
If you say, please play the video, they will play the video.
Oh, please play the video. As if by magic.
We are one of the largest manufacturers of construction equipment in the world. We employ more than 10,000 people in our 20 manufacturing facilities on 4 continents. We produce over 300 different products for a diverse range of applications. We listen to our customers and pioneer world-beating engineering innovation. We offer the widest range of options and attachments to deliver tailored solutions. We have over 2,000 dealer depots worldwide. We support our customers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We are committed to delivering the best customer support in the business. We are the global company with a human face. We are JCB.
And there we have diggers, always calculated to appeal to the small boy in all of us. The other thing that probably appeals to the small boy in all of us is cars that go very, very fast, which, Jonathan Neale, is your very glamorous business. As Nick Clegg said, 8 out of 12 Formula One constructors are based here. Why?
I think as a history for a legacy from our post-war aerospace years, actually, all of the disused airfields and the relevant technologies were inherently in the place at that time. But I think if you step back and look at Formula One, you could look at it as the point where sport meets technology for the business of entertainment. It is a sport, and we race around the globe from March to November, end of November each year, 20 races across 5 different continents, taking 40 tons of freight and 100 people en route to far-flung destinations. And it's a fiercely contested sport. I mean, every one of our business, your business and my business, requires simultaneous high levels of innovation and very slick execution, none more so than when you're trying to do a pit stop in 2.3 seconds, as we did in Hungary, with 170 million people looking at you, waiting for that one operational moment of failure. It has been a fiercely innovative business. McLaren's been winning races since the 1960s. We have 12 drivers' constructor championships. Now we have 8 constructor championships. And we have won over that period of time, something like 1 in 4 races. And we have a driver on the podium every other race, statistically, over that period of time, which is a phenomenal responsibility as well as a testament to achievement. It is a high technology business. One of these machines is, if I just take the engine as one part number, 11,500 parts. And our time to market for a new car every year is about 3.5 months. And the difference between the car that tests in January from the last race in maybe Brazil of this year, carryover will be around 4 or 5% in terms of the product. Because what that car is actually just a snapshot of high-speed research and development. And thereon, we're making an engineering change every 20 minutes, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So as a technological sport, it is fiercely contested. And the product differential is very small. You have to remember that the top 5 cars at the next Grand Prix will be separated by a product performance that's about 0.15% product differential. The whole grid is inside 2.5% product performance. So those 8 teams from the UK continually contest at that level. It's also a phenomenally complex and far-ranging business. Top teams these days are competing, spending budgets between $300 and $400 million a year just to put 2 cars on a grid 20 times a year. But you can look at it as high-speed research and development. 30% of all of the revenue from Formula One, which is about $4 billion a year in terms of Formula One as a whole, over 30% of that is invested in R&D, building on the engineering and science that's based around the globe. And we provide some fantastic jobs for science and technology graduates and apprentices and young people. And it's a really exciting end destination job for a lot of people and a very serious business.
And how easy is it to recruit those highly skilled engineers from here in the UK?
Well, I'm constantly terrified by the quality of the graduates that come through the door, actually. I make a point of interviewing all of them before they join us. And the caliber is very high. I think of our 250 engineers, scientists and mathematicians that we have, there are 23 different nationalities. We attract talent from all over the globe. And as Colin was saying earlier, that war for talent and that results. We're fiercely proud to be based in the UK and fiercely proud that we have 2 back-to-back British champions. We see ourselves as a global business, and it's a results-driven business fueled by competition. So talent comes from wherever.
Barry, as you said, you're a Brit, but you're not based here in the UK. So you look at this from a slightly different perspective to our other speakers. First of all, how important for Airbus is what it does here in the UK? How important a part of the mix is that? And how do your colleagues in Airbus, in other parts of Airbus, view the sort of British contribution?
On the first one, the UK contribution is incredibly important. It's the wings. When you build aeroplanes, which by the way is really difficult, but when you build aeroplanes, the single most important part of the airplane, sorry Colin, it's not the engine, it's the wing, the aerodynamics of the wing. When you think of an A380, our new super jumbo jet, and I hope many of you have flown on an A380, it's absolutely stunning. That aeroplane weighs over 1 million pounds, and it lifts into the air, and it flies at 500 miles an hour plus, and it goes from one side of the world to the other, carrying over 500 people, and it does it every day of the week, and everybody expects to arrive on time to the minute. And it does that on the back of British wings. Designing and developing and manufacturing those wings to that quality, just for the A380, not to mention all the other programs, is a staggering achievement, and that's what we get out of the UK. Not just that, but we get other major components, such as landing gears and, of course, the engines. The British aerospace, in total, the aerospace industry in the UK, accounts for about $23 billion worth of economy to the UK economy, and about 70% of it is exported. So we think of ourselves really as being a European company that's exporting, indeed operating in the global marketplace, and we're moving to being a global company. We don't just build aeroplanes in Europe, we now build aeroplanes in China, and we announced last month we're also going to be building aeroplanes in the USA, right in our competitor's backyard, Boeing's backyard. So we truly are a global company. But when we look at the UK contribution, the contribution of the wings, and in many cases the engines, is probably the single most important contribution we have.
If you were going to say.
Go ahead.
If you were to canvass your colleagues in Airbus and the executive, the higher echelons of Airbus, and ask them for their sort of perceptions, this is a soft question, it's not a hard nuts and bolts question, it's about perceptions. What would their perception of the British contribution, British engineering and so on be, do you think?
Extremely valuable, extremely good. But then again, I have to admit that their perception of the French contribution and the German and the Spanish contribution and all of our other suppliers would probably be the same. We truly do think like a global company.
I was going to say, you can tell he belongs to a multinational company, can't you? A very diplomatic answer, right.
But it's true, it's true. Nick.
Indeed. We've 7 or 8 minutes to open this up to the body of the Kirk and get your contributions. Again, can we have the microphones, please? A whole series of hands up here. The gentleman in the back row is first. Next to him, we'll take the lady immediately afterwards, and then the gentleman in the light suit. So gentleman in the back And usual procedure, if you just tell us who you are and what organisation you represent.
Thank you. Richard Godwin from Illumigen. I'm an expat living in Chicago for the last 25 years. Would the panelists like to comment on what is going to happen over the next few years with additive engineering and manufacturing, you know, with 3D printing and things like this? I heard that Airbus is actually going to start making wings using additive. Is this something that the UK should be in the forefront of?
Barry, we'll start with you.
The answer is yes, it's one of many technologies that we're looking at using, but it's many years out. We put that into our research and technology activity. We have what we call the Innovation Works, and Robin Southwell from the ADS will speak about that perhaps later on. We have 3 separate branches of our Innovation Works here in the UK. Innovation Works is looking at new manufacturing technologies, new materials technologies, new aerodynamics, anything that can be going on our aeroplanes in 10, 20, 30 years' time. That is one of them, but I can't tell you that we're doing a lot of work on it right now. It is important, but not for maybe the next 10, 15 years.
Colin?
It has its place. We repair fan blades with laser deposition, additive manufacturing. We add material by welding. It's all about the material properties. It's great for tooling, fantastic for tooling, batch of one stuff, prototyping. For aerospace, you've got to have the integrity of a forging, so it's the heat treatment. So it's got its place. It's probably better used on ground vehicles than aerospace because we just demand so much out of materials. But it's fantastic.
Jonathan, you're nodding.
I think Colin's right. I think we use a significant amount of various rapid prototyping technologies, and I think stepping back from additive rapid prototyping at the moment, if you look at the growth in UK productivity and manufacturing over the last 10 years, a lot of that has been fueled by innovations in the process, and rapid prototyping technology definitely has its place in there. We use it significantly in our research and development labs, and we are making parts straight to car. But you say it's very different from hanging an Airbus with 500 passengers in the air on it. But it's coming.
Philip, do you want to come on this?
Yeah, we very, in a similar way, use rapid prototyping, but we also have one senior director totally dedicated to what the market will look like in the future. And we pay a lot of attention to things like composites, fuel cells, energy recovery systems.
Can I just, Nick, may I just, one supplementary. The application of science to manufacturing capability is what will help keep this country in the lead. And the advanced manufacturing research centres, additive is a small part of that. But as Jonathan said, with its laying up composites automatically, that's what's going to keep our cost base down and keep the quality up.
Gentlemen, the lady next to you there who had a question, we'll pass the microphone on to her, and then this gentleman in the pale suit.
Good morning, Kirsty Andrew, Williams Formula One. I just wondered what the panellists or the companies that the panellists are representing are doing to encourage the young people to be interested in engineering. Obviously, one of the things that we talk about a lot with UKTI and BIS is the fact that not in every school can you study physics as a single subject. And obviously, if you don't study it as a single subject, that seriously limits the number of universities you can go to study engineering and certain other subjects. So what are the panellist companies doing to engage with academia to make sure we get the people that we need to keep growing?
Philip, JCB's sponsoring one of these technical academies, aren't you?
It's actually a secondary state school, which is academy status. So we're probably taking a 25-year view, where we are taking boys and girls from our postcode, totally unselected apart from where they live, into our academy. We have partners in the academy, Rolls-Royce are one of them, and Bombardier are another partner, and we're hoping they will be the lifeblood of our businesses in the future. And everybody's of value to businesses like ours and my colleagues' business around us. It's not just about producing engineers, it's about producing people who are valuable at all levels in an organization. We might get a couple of PhDs a year coming out, but we might get 7 welders. We don't know, but we desperately want them to be in manufacturing, and we've targeted that Stoke-on-Trent, Derby, sort of Staffordshire belt, the A50, where we're very fortunate to have good neighbours such as Rolls-Royce, Toyota and Vodafone.
Colin?
We try and do an awful lot to support. I mean, the fundamentals are, unless you do maths at primary school, you're never going to be an engineer. So we've got to be much more focused, as the Deputy Prime Minister said earlier, in that science and maths is really important and people should aspire to do it. And I think it's absolutely lamentable, particularly the gender gap in the UK on the number of females that think science and maths is a good thing to do, and that's something that's really got to be approached. But we've all got to help support the teaching community to understand it. And I think we've got to get, with government support, a lot more focused. You know what, some degrees are more important than others. And apprenticeships and welders. You can't build a nuclear power station if you haven't got anybody that welds.
Question down here, gentleman in the cream suit. And then one over there.
Hello, Martin de Rebets from Infinium. I was in Shanghai last week in relation to our setting up a major growth platform for our business there, but I was also hearing some very interesting stories, including in relationship to growth of an indigenous civil aviation technology. My question, therefore, is particularly directed at Barry. And I'm just wondering, to what extent do you believe that we could turn the growth of a potential competitor in that sector, perhaps even into a commercial opportunity, and maybe even by some form of collaboration rather than just a head-to-head competition?
Right. Very good question. Today, as we know, in large commercial aerospace, there's Airbus and there's Boeing. It's a sort of duopoly in the business. In the smaller airplanes, the 100-seaters, we also have, of course, Brazil, with Embraer, and we have Bombardier in Canada. So we already have, to some degree at the bottom end, some competition. But the Chinese have declared their intention to get into a commercial aeroplane business, 150 to 200 seaters to start with, and they're building an aeroplane that will come, in theory, will arrive in service in about 2016. We have no doubt that the Chinese will produce an aeroplane, and we have no doubt they will sell it to Chinese carriers. I think they perhaps underestimate the challenge of selling it and then supporting it in the global marketplace. That will take a while. But I can remember saying the same things about Korean motor cars in the 1970s. I was in Korea at the time. And so there's no question it will come, and it will impact us probably in the next 10 to 20 years. So our response to that is not necessarily to collaborate, although we are to some degree already doing that. We have a joint venture in China building wings and building aeroplanes. But our real answer is to stay ahead, and stay ahead through innovation. And innovation really is the key word in Airbus. And if there's one message I would want to preach to this audience, it's that stay ahead through innovation. And that then ties, if I may, Nick, to the previous question about education. In Europe, we need about 12,000 aerospace graduates a year. We're getting about 9,000. But equally important is the fact that of those 9,000, about 60% of them don't stay in engineering. They may be engineering graduates, but they don't stay in our business. Airbus's solution to that has been to go, I'm afraid to say, overseas. In my business in the US, we have about 550 experienced aerospace engineers in the US, full-time in the US. And we do that because we can't get them in Europe. We'd love to get them here, but we can't. Likewise, we're doing research and technology in India, and we have an engineering base in China. And we do all that because we can't get everything we need here in Europe right now.
Philip, China, as I mentioned, your particular interest, or one of them. You're also, I think, director of the UK-India Business Council. Competitors, collaborators?
Deeply suspicious of each other, I think, is the way to describe that. And for anybody who is from China in the room or for India in the room, I apologize in advance, but that's the way we see it. They look at each other, they circle each other all the time. Very different nations. We've been operating in India for 37 years, and really part of the fabric. It's become our biggest market in the world. We've only been really manufacturing in China for the last 7 years, and we decided to go the tough route in China and form our own enterprise rather than going into joint venture. So we're a very different sort of entity in China than most of our competitors who are in joint venture. I don't think there are any parallels you can draw. I think they're two very separate nations, and they're treated in a very separate way by collaborators and exporters, and I don't see them moving closer together. I might be totally wrong, but I think that India will want to develop its own industries and export. They do a very good job. China's done it more rapidly, but India can catch up and is making a very good fist of it.
We need to move on. I'm going to take one further question, and then we'll move on to our next panel Yes, sir.
Harry Swan from Thomas Swan and Company. We're a small SME chemical manufacturer based up in the northeast of England. I'm just interested to know how important your smaller suppliers are to you, specifically in the UK, and specifically from a chemical point of view, the beginning of the supply chain. And are you getting enough support from them in the UK, or do you need more?
Very good question. Take an answer from all of you. Jonathan.
We have about 1,100 suppliers just for the racing business, based around the UK, small to medium enterprises, everything from machine shops to heat treatment plants. And we tend to buy very specialist services, and because of our lead times, it being based in the UK is fantastic for us. I think we are getting a lot of support there. We're seeing the investment in capital infrastructure. We're seeing some of the innovation that Barry mentioned a few minutes ago. So, yeah, I'm excited. We're being pushed by the supply chain. And I think if you look at any one of the major or the cardinal technical parameters of a Formula One car over a 20-year period, those performance improvements are almost linear, and that's underpinned by improvements in the technology, the machining capability, materials and computing. But it's certainly coming at us very hard, yeah.
Barry, you want to come in on this?
We have 400 suppliers to Airbus in the UK. By the way, we have similar numbers in the USA, France, Germany, etc. What this means is we have a lot of suppliers, and it's really impossible for us to effectively manage all those suppliers. So the way we respond to that is we have a very close relationship with our tier one suppliers, people like Rolls-Royce, GKN, and then they have a good relationship with their suppliers and so on down the chain. We would love to find new, innovative, smaller suppliers, but we tend to do that by coming up through our tier one, tier two supply chain.
Philip?
I can't give you the exact number, but I can give you a percentage. In the 60s, over 60% of a JCB backhoe loader was supported by UK supply chains. By the 90s, that had dropped to 30%. Not because we were dropping the supply chain, but because the rest of Europe and the other parts of the world were stepping up. Since late 2007, we've been operating a proactive, if you like, sweep of the UK SMEs to try and bring them into our global supply chain. We've been working with UKTI on that and trade associations with varying degrees of success, but we're pretty sure that we can actually start building that up again. And there is a will to do so. And I can see Lord Green in the front row over there, and he knows exactly where this is coming from, because he and I have debated it over the last couple of years, how to make it more effective. So yes, of course, we want more UK SMEs in our supply chain.
Colin?
Oh, we've got a great UK supply chain, but we're worrying it's getting weaker. They have to be competitive on cost, quality and delivery, and they've really got to realise how hard the competition is from some of the other countries. And they have to be consistent. We love working with SMEs. Welcome to the partnerships, be a supplier to us, but you've got to meet cost, quality and delivery as well.
OK, gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. Colin Smith, Jonathan Neale, Philip Bouverat and Barry Eccleston.